whatever side you would like. Okay. Kelly, can you answer for a group? Kelly's currently an incumbent with the school board. Why are school boards necessary?
Well, Glenn, you want to let her introduce herself kind of first, like
Duh.
a statement?
I'm so out of context here. Thank you, Kirsten. Yeah, why don't you give me a little intro on yourself?
Okay, all right. Good morning. My name is Kelly King, and as Glenn mentioned, I am the incumbent, and I am running for re-election. A little bit of background information about me is I am a Florida native. I have lived in Marion County for 20 years, and I have lived 19 years in the district that I am currently serving. I have my master's degree in educational leadership. I have my bachelor's degree in elementary education. I'm on numerous committees. Some of my favorite committees that I'm on is I am on the board of directors for Kids Central. I am also a member of Reading Pals, and I go into kindergarten classes and read with kindergartners. And as I was telling Wally earlier, I'm also involved in a soft skills committee. And that committee is really important because what we focus on is when students leave the schools in the classroom, we teach them or help them understand how important it is to show up, attendance, be there, show up and be willing to work with others and stuff like that. So those are a couple of things that I work on. I do have my husband, Stephen, back there with me. He is a 22-year Navy veteran, and he is also a teacher at MTC, Marion Technical College. So, thank you.
See if I ask you the same question again. Kelly, in all honesty, if I ask a question that you don't feel comfortable with, all you've got to do is say, I'll have to get the information, get it back to you one way or the other. So you're not in any time frame as far as your answers go. Kelly, why are school boards necessary?
Well, it's necessary. It is in the Constitution, the Florida Constitutional. It does state, I believe it's Article 9, and it states that, the Constitution that we are to have a school board.
Okay, good. How would you describe an effective school board member that you've already served?
That I already serve. An effective school board member would be someone that can analyze and understand the budget, make sure that they're being good stewards to the taxpayer dollars, and have a good understanding of the policies that are being implemented to our employees and students.
There's been a lot of discussion with the superintendent and school board members. What are your thoughts, Kelly, of a voter-approved superintendent and an approved volunteer and appointed volunteer school board members? Just the opposite of what we've been discussing.
Just the opposite. Are you asking if I'm for an appointed or?
No, ma'am.
Repeat that?
What are your thoughts of a voter-approved superintendent? We would vote for the superintendent and appointed volunteer school board members.
Oh, volunteered school board members.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I do understand, up in North there are volunteer school board members, and if the voters choose to do that, I completely understand and respect that. As far as the, what was the question about the elected?
In other words, the superintendent would be elected. We would vote for the superintendent.
Okay.
Then the school board members would be a volunteer.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so then I answered that question.
There's been a lot of discussion about engaging the community in the school system. How would you, Kelly, engage the community to improve public schools in Marion County? And you can use Evergreen or any other failing schools that you may desire as examples. How can we bring them up by getting community involvement?
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that our parents and the community members are welcome into our schools. I think we also need to do a better job of, well, we want to invite the parents, but we want to make sure that it's clear that there's never any type of intimidation, because sometimes for parents, it's intimidating to go into a school, when they think there's teachers and stuff like that. So I think we just need to have very open communication with our parents or volunteers and stuff like that, and have many opportunities. So.
Kelly, what is your view of the role of charter schools in public education?
Charter schools. I am for school choice. I believe that not all children will be, set in the same school setting. For example, parents should be allowed to make the best decisions for their students, whether it be homeschooling, whether it be the charter schools, magnet schools like that. So I believe that the parents are the best advocates for their students, their children, and they know what's best for them, and they should have the final say-so where their children go.
Kelly, this is primarily to dispel any rumors from your opponents and those who are naysayers, for no better term. Will you please explain why you as an incumbent waited so long to enter the race, then dropped out, and finally entered again? I just want to get on the record if you don't mind, please.
Okay, well, there is no set timeline when you enter a race. I am very focused on being a school board member. The question about why I did withdraw my name, it was before we qualified. There was no qualification that had happened. I had entered the race. Anybody who knows and understands politics, you know that it is tough. And it's not just tough for you, it's tough for your family. And I'm gonna be honest, I was told in January, because of the Evergreen, you mentioned Evergreen, I did not vote the way that certain people in this community thought I should, and I was threatened. And I'm gonna be honest, I was threatened that they were going to take me out. I had threats that things would be done to me that were done to the previous administration. And that's a lot to consider and take in. So I considered, I was taking everything into consideration, and then I realized that my decisions that I've made on this school board, and Evergreen being one, because third grade scores happened to come out and they showed improvement. I saw some other things that were happening, and I know as a school board member, I have made good, effective decisions for our students and our employees, and I knew that I needed to give our county the opportunity to vote for who they seem is best fit. And I am gonna stand before you today, and everything that was threatened to me about me is happening. The lies and the deception and the mistruths that you guys are hearing on the phone calls and the mailers are exactly what they said they were gonna do. So, you asked me what happened, that is the truth, and as the song goes, I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. And then this is all about educating, and we can learn, so I appreciate you explaining all that. Thank you. Kelly, regarding your voting record as an incumbent, is there anything you would have voted different and why?
Anything is no. I can't. Nothing is coming to the top of my mind of anything I would have voted differently on.
Yep. Now the other side of the spectrum, regarding leadership, what motions have you made and were approved that you're the proudest?
I have done several things. Last year, I was the chair. I feel that I ran a very effective and good board. I was instrumental and with the city of Ocala. We just know that in May, I believe it was, that an issue with the city of Ocala that has been in litigation for many years, and feeling, we had animosity with each other, we weren't getting along, the city of Ocala and the school board, we were lining the pockets of our attorneys, and I was instrumental. I opened up some good conversation. It didn't happen when I was chair, the final say-so, but that communication started with me. Another vote, it's frustrating in the sense we know of Evergreen, and that is a sensitive topic because the superintendent wanted to close the school because it had been an F school. And I voted no to keep the school open. And the reason why, there was a few different reasons why I voted to keep the school open. But one of them reasons that I did know is that we had 600 plus students that were failing in Evergreen Elementary School. if Evergreen students entered our other classrooms in other schools, we're not solving our problem. We would just be transferring that problem. Now at the time, I did not know that under the leadership that is in place now, I did not know that we were going to have 11 schools that would fall and decline. But I did know by placing these schools, it wasn't gonna help them. Now that I know what has happened behind me, some of the schools that was presented by the superintendent to send Evergreen schools to, they're F schools now. So we would have been placing students from Evergreen Elementary and placing them into another F school. So that is a leadership decision that I made. I'm confident that I made the right decision with that. Was it difficult? You bet. You bet. Do I want every school to do well and perform? You're absolutely correct. But unfortunately, that did not happen under this leadership.
I appreciate it. Kelly, if you'd like to wrap up, tell us in your words the reason why we should vote for Kelly King.
Okay. The reason why you should vote for Kelly King is, again, I understand the classroom. I have experience with the classroom. Not only that, I have experience on the school board. My opponents may have some business experience. I have experience with running a budget over or close to $500 million. It's over $500 million. I understand the funds. I understand policy. I understand schools. I have an excellent pulse on what's going on in the schools, and I am confident that I have made good decisions for Marion County. I understand that there are mistruths out there with the phone calls and the liars, but if you look at the phone calls, if you look at what is on those cards, those are superintendent issues. Those are not school board issues. School board is budget and policy. Running the schools is superintendent. And I brought this in just real quick, and I want to share this, and this is a perfect example of what's going on for your future reference and something to think about. Here's an organizational chart that was put out by the superintendent and her staff. When you look at this, and it's hard, I want you to look close. You're going to see the superintendent, and you see all the positions underneath her, or the superintendent. The superintendent runs the daily operations of the school. The board is over here by itself. There's no connection, okay? Again, school board is budget and policy. As a school board member, I have provided the superintendent with what she's needed. When I was chair, she asked for principals on assignment. She's asked for consultants and different things happening in the class. As a board, we have given this administration what they need. This is the daily operation. So please, I just ask you to do your research, be an informed voter, and understand the difference between a superintendent and board members. And again, I will end on that. My husband is a teacher. My sister is an assistant principal. I have a son who is a senior at Vanguard High. I was a teacher. I am now a school board member. I understand the issues that are taking place. And I'm not saying everything's bad, because there's been great things that have happened in our school systems too. Our vocational schools are doing wonderful, and we're working, like, even with the county commission. We know that there's many businesses opening, and we are doing a great job. Next month we're having the CDL licenses. We have logistic programs. That's wonderful. But I also understand underneath this leadership, we have a 160% increase in our DA schools. We need somebody in there that's going to know and understand. And I will also say that as a board member, I saved this money just a few months ago because under this administration, it was suggested that people that are in certain areas making decisions for our principals and our teachers, they wanted to give a promotion to and a job title. The board, we said no. I said no. And when the scores came out, now that person is demoted and others. So I just ask again that you guys please just understand the difference between a board member and superintendent positions. And I respectfully ask for your vote on August 28th. Please vote for Kelly King. Thank you.
Kelly, thank you. Kelly Kingston, it's District 5. I'm going to announce, you don't have to live in a district to vote for Kelly. You can live anywhere in Marion County. That's very important.
Yes.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Jane Morley asked and was invited to attend, and she may be running late. I don't know, but if it's all okay with you, Carl, can we go to you next?
Sure.
Okay.
You're reading. I'm used to going last. They got a name that starts with a Z, right? So we're always at the end of the line. But obviously, the lunch line, I still had food, I guess, you know.
Carl,
Good morning.
good to see you, sir.
How are you?
Good, thank you. And more important, how are you?
Oh, fantastic. I'll let you know in 5 weeks.
This is kind of neat in a sense, because we do have some histories.
Oh, yeah. We have a lot of fun together, haven't we?
No, not that stuff. Your mom's here. And,
Yeah.
and I know. No, I mean, we were in a similar business together.
Yeah.
You know, and so we've known each other for a number of years.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to feel comfortable, Carl.
Thank you.
And educate so we can learn all about Carl Zalak.
I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. And once again, if something is too long-winded or you don't have enough facts at the time, just say that.
Okay.
Okay?
No, I
And
appreciate that, Glenn.
That's the name of the game.
I appreciate
boss.
you being
You're very
fair.
welcome.
Thank you.
With that, you want to give us 3 minutes? Is it 3 minutes?
Yeah.
To talk about yourself, Carl?
3 minutes to talk about myself. It's going to be hard, so let me just talk about my wife, because it's much better than me. So my wife Ann is with me today, and you guys have seen my family. My mom and I have been in business together for just a little under 15 years. We have a solid waste company where we do dumpsters for construction sites and lots of horse manure. And when I first got on the board, I used to tell people that we were in the business of recycling lots of manure, so I would fit perfectly on the Board of County Commissioners. So we've had a lot of fun, and this board has done a lot of work, because when I got on the board in 2010, unemployment rate on the front page of the Star Banner was 14.3%. And families were getting around their tables trying to figure out how they were going to navigate this great recession, what it was going to be like, and what problems, and how they could even start to solve them. And the Board of County Commissioners kind of did the same thing. We got around the board table with our community and figured out that, you know, what we were doing with economic development wasn't working. What the chamber was doing wasn't working. And so it took a couple years, but we reformed as the chamber did, reformed, collaborating both the economic development arm and the chamber arm together to form what's now the CEP. In the meantime, we had started our own economic development department, but we wanted to be a team player. Instead of the county kind of controlling that economic arm, we said, no, you know what, the truth is, if the private sector can get its act together and the CEP can do it, then let's not have a department that we're paying here. Let's fund a department that the private sector is. The city funded it, the county funded it, and the CEP is funding it through their membership. And now we have a better agency. Obviously, you can see the results, right? Recruiting FedEx, Chewy, AutoZone. One of the great stories about Chewy, even just recently, as we're working through the animal, we're reforming our animal shelter. As we're moving through that reform, Chewy, through Mr. Roberts, puts a couple of tractor trailers there, and Chewy, all of its discarded, broken materials, they put in the back of those trucks, and the volunteer groups distribute that around the community. So not only does it help those rescue groups for animals around our community, but it's also supplying almost all of the food and needs of our county-owned animal shelter. That's going to probably allow us to divert those dollars to buy some new cat cages that we would have spent for food. Also, we're looking at trying to figure out through the reform how to work with the rescue groups to let them take care of the feline communities, right? So we have what they call community cats, the cats that no one really owns, but they kind of know how to go door to door and get all the food they need, right, through the streets. And so so they're going to work with that, and we want to be able to give a rebate for the neuters that they do. They clip the ears, they neuter the cats, they put them back out in the community, and then over time the population dwindles, and we have a better, safer community, and we don't have to put down or euthanize so many animals. So it's been a great project that we're continuing to work on. And one of the other big things, of course, is the reform of the firefighter contract. We've got that solved to make sure that we have the right paramedics on the back of the buses, or the back of the ambulance. And we're just making strategic moves. because we had to do so much hard work on the recession side. Our budget's been very tight. And this is really the first budget year we're walking into that has allowed us to make some of the changes, including funding the sheriff's pay plan. So all of those things are coming into play. The sales tax has done some incredible things, and you can view all of that on our website. Every single project is listed, how much it was, how much it's spent, the new helicopter, the roads that are getting paved, the ambulances, the fire trucks, the cars, and in fact, we're doing above and beyond what we had to do even with school safety, working with our superintendent, the school board, and the sheriff to fund the cars for the school resource officers that will hopefully be deployed this August.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Carl, oh, before we go, anybody has a cell phone, please silence it, because the audio will pick that up.
Let me make sure I do that too. Uh-oh, you've got a caller.
Before he goes on, there was a month from here we had the same old Chewy.
Yeah.
Is anything like that written up any place so you know about it? It'd be nice to find out what these companies are doing.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I don't know if it's written up. I don't know if they publicize their community donations, but I'll try to find that for you if we can.
We'll take questions after because we're videoing this for right now. Thank you. Carl, what do you see as the most pressing needs for infrastructure or capital projects in the county?
So it's always roads. I mean, you know, during the recession and before now, what you can see across the country is infrastructure struggling to keep up, because what used to be the fuel tax, people are driving less overall. Even now in a good economy, they're just still driving a little bit less than they were even 10 years ago. Fuel efficient cars, all of those kind of things. So you see communities across the country where the gas tax that was supposed to kind of pay for those things, it can't cover the cost of America's infrastructure. So what are people doing? The state of Florida won't do this for counties, but it does it for itself. It actually has an inflation factor that goes with the gas tax, right? And so every year, based on CPI, there's an inflation factor to their gas tax, where the county is still using the same, 4 or 5 cents that it had back in the 90s. And so that's never changed. So what's that really worth? I mean, halves the pennies, maybe now today. And so it just doesn't keep up. And so really the reality is what the sales tax has allowed us to do is twofold. First, it's allowed us to fix some really critical infrastructure projects and also build what will be the new interchange on 49th Street that'll come right north of FedEx and Chewy and all that. That interchange will come into play because of the sales tax. So it's allowing us not only to fix some of the deficit we have in infrastructure maintenance, as well as build some new stuff that really will continue to help our community grow, especially in that particular sector, in that particular area. And so those are the kind of things that really make a difference. And one more note on the sales tax before I leave it. It's paid 30% by visitors. It is the first time in history where Marion County is funding part of its capital and part of its public safety and infrastructure by those that are also using it from outside our county. Previously, all of public safety, even if they were working an accident on I-75, was being paid for by the property taxpayers of Marion County. Now we're sharing in that.
Carl, should the county be encouraging building and development?
Yes,
That wasn't easy.
in the right spots. How about that? Even better.
Carl, this is somewhat of a long-winded one, and I want you to feel comfortable with it.
All right.
Please. Please explain who the partners with the county are regarding the compressed natural gas project.
Reliance Petroleum is the owner.
Reliance.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe that's correct.
How much money's been spent on conversions? Any idea, Carl, converting the trucks?
I knew you were going to ask this question, so let me get that. Conversions. After the rebates, so probably 600,000-700,000 after the rebates that we had from the state. The The vehicle rebates was 95,000, 100, and 150. So I would say a couple $100 grand, probably after we got the rebates back from 50% from the state of Florida for using compressed natural gas. You want the prices for the fuel too?
You can.
Sure.
That's not one of my questions, but whatever you can do to help us.
Yeah. So I mean, I know that compressed natural gas has been is one of those things that have been questioned by the county commission. So I'll be happy to share with it. So fuel prices were over $4 for diesel fuel when we made the decision to convert to, or at least have a percentage. So it's less than a 20% factor of our fleet use compressed natural gas, right? So we spend a couple $1 million a year in fuel prices between gasoline and diesel. We spend about $200,000 approximately in compressed natural gas. So it's a very small percentage of the actual bill that we actually use for compressed natural gas. At the time, diesel, when we made the decision in 2013-14, was running for the county. Now remember, the county, so if you're paying $4 for fuel, the county's paying 30 to 40 cents less than that because it doesn't pay taxes, right? So we were paying $3.53 and for the diesel fuel, and we were paying for compressed natural gas at the time. We bought 31,000 gallons for $2.23 per gallon equivalent. So it's about $1.23 less than the diesel price. There was one time in 2016 where the prices actually came close. We paid $1.89 for diesel and $1.91 for compressed natural gas. So it was compressed natural gas that year was 2 cents higher overall. We spent $775,000 in diesel and $200,000 in compressed natural gas. So again, it's a small portion overall, and $1 million in fuel, regular gasoline. Year to date, 2017-18, diesel is back up a little bit, running $2.55, and compressed natural gas is still running $1.86. So we're saving a significant amount of money per gallon equivalent for the compressed natural gas. So it's one of those things. I mean, the county made a decision to do a little bit of compressed natural gas. We wanted to use a local vendor because we wanted to be able to go down the street and talk to somebody if we had a problem. We have one fueling station that allows now the car dealerships in Marion County to actually sell if they want to compressed natural gas. They can't without a public station, so this allows them to do that. And it also just diversifies us a little bit. How many in here want all of our oil to come from a foreign source? Nobody, right? At least compressed natural gas comes from Texas. We're supplying, just like our president, we want American fuel to power American progress, and that's what I want. And so I think compressed natural gas, is it all perfect? Absolutely not. Are there some issues? Absolutely. Has it worked in every single vehicle? Nope. But is it worth trying to continue to move towards American energy? I believe absolutely. And I don't think we're costing the taxpayers money. I think it's maybe a break even for us, and we're using American fuel.
Carl, this is the last one.
Yes, sir.
I believe there's a penalty if we don't use X amount of gallons per year.
There was, yes.
Okay. Can you tell us the history of that, how much we paid? And so
Maybe.
on?
I might have this on that report. I might have to get that back to you. Let me see here. Sorry, Glenn, I didn't have that
okay.
readily available. Okay, the penalty for, we didn't pay a penalty. We haven't paid a penalty in a couple of years. The first year, because we weren't able to get the fleet up to par, was 150, and then 78,000. So there was a penalty for 2 years for not meeting the quota of compressed natural gas, and that was because everybody was converting for compressed natural gas, and the lead time went from 6 months to almost 20 months on a vehicle, and so that was our issue. And it was just a manufacturer, but we also got the vehicle rebates for 95,000, 100,000, 143,000 that by far offset the taxpayers. And then we also got a fuel rebate of 2,000, 4,000, and 5,000. So every time somebody else, just so you know, buys a gallon of fuel at the compressed natural gas station, because it's on a piece of leased property from the county, we get a rebate on every gallon sold to anyone else at that fuel station. And so we also make approximately, it keeps going up, 4 or 5 plus $1,000 a year just in other people purchasing fuel as a partnership to the county.
Thank you. Carl, can you please explain what was the rush to spend $20 million taxpayer dollars over 7 years ago for an out-of-county business to get started that helped create jobs, et cetera, for them in another area? And to date, Carl, you know, we still haven't used it.
Yeah, so you're talking about the trash.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the rush is that Marion County got the best deal that anyone probably in local government has ever really gotten. We bought 2.5 million tons of airspace in a landfill that's not in Marion County. How many people want another landfill sited in their backyard or anywhere near them, for that matter, right? So that's what happened to us. Most of the time, we were coming within 5 or 10 years of the lifespan of baseline landfill. We needed to do two things: expand baseline, site a new landfill in Marion County, or find an alternative source, right? At that particular time, there was somebody at the heart of Florida that wanted to build a new landfill. They needed capital to do that. They weren't, at that time, a publicly traded company. They couldn't just raise the capital from selling stocks. So we were looking for a new site. We partnered with them to build the first couple cells. We did that because we got the best rate in the country for garbage disposal, $8 a ton. It costs us more than $20 to bury it at the baseline, and most gate rates around the state are $42 plus. Even on the big garbage around the state, it's still running $25 plus to upwards of Alachua County just signed another deal to pay, I think, close to $42 to $45 a ton for their garbage. Ocala is paying $42 a ton for their garbage to go to Valdosta. We're paying $8 a ton for our garbage to go down the street. Now, we do need to pay for shipping, so I'm sure that number, when it's all done, will hover right around 20. But that's an incredible thing to be able to transfer your garbage for the same rate you could bury it in your own landfill. It's phenomenal. It'll save taxpayers over $65 million over the next 30 years. And you're right, we haven't used it. You know why? Because every year we don't use that airspace, we are creating more dollars because that value of that airspace just continues to go up. It doesn't go away, it continues to go up. And even better news for our community is that private company was bought out by Waste Connections, which is a publicly traded company, and they have the money and the dollars to continue to do it. And we hold a first mortgage on that thing, and if anything ever happened, guess who owns it? Taxpayers in Marion County. We own the whole thing. So it is an incredible deal because we were in first, we financed it first, and sometimes you just flat out get lucky, and I love it when the taxpayers win.
I'll call it a disguise of a solid waste authority, and you can explain what a solid waste authority is if you like, Carl.
Only 3 minutes?
I'll give you more time.
All right.
Can you explain why you supported to help generate additional cash flow for the same out-of-county business?
I don't, all right, so help me out with that.
With the push for the authority
Right.
would have generated additional revenue, additional cash for ACMS.
And us, right?
I don't know if I don't know, I'm gonna let you answer that.
Okay.
If you please would explain
Okay.
the importance of the authority, Carl.
So, well, the authority's not in question anymore. It's kind of with all due respect, it's kind of irrelevant to talk about at this point because we did the research, we never were able to come up with anything, and now the company's been sold to a publicly traded company. So the landfill down there is going to be in the hands of Waste Connections in the future, secured by, and we also have a security of the CEO, the chairman of the board, and a first mortgage on that property. So I want you to know that your investment is safe. It's been signed off on. We were researching before this company, we were saying, okay, well listen, if we can have 30 years, why can't we have 80 years of security, know where our trash is gonna go, and just have a lifetime of taxpayers understanding what the cost will be. Because in government, predictable costs are really good things, right, when you're doing budget. And so we tried to form a solid waste authority. It never really worked. We tried to get other counties that were around us that were either running out of landfill space or had a need, or the city of Ocala, or anybody that wanted to talk about it. We wanted to say, hey, listen, because if we pledge our tipping, right, or our flow in the garbage waste business, it's all about where the garbage goes at the end of the day. That's called flow. And in some places you have something called flow control, right? The city of Ocala has flow control. Its trucks pick up all the residential garbage. Its trucks pick up all the commercial garbage. That's called flow control. They know where that garbage is going, and they have the right to bill you for it, right? So they can bond off of those dollars where the end result happens, right? That's flow control. That's how you build a transfer station. That's how you build a landfill. Our landfill was built and bonded based on the fact that every resident in Marion County has to pay to bring their trash to Marion County. They pay it in their solid waste assessment, $42 a ton, right? So, based off of that, other counties could pledge their flow to an authority, and that authority could then bond and buy that landfill. So we were looking for a long-term possible solution. Said, man, we could own that landfill the next 80, 100 years. There's a couple thousand acres down there, and we could really be in control of our destiny, not for just 20 or 30 years, but for the foreseeable future, you know, and then hopefully even some technology would come along where gasification or any of those other things that they've been working on for 50 years might actually produce some real efficiencies, because you typically need about 1 million households worth of garbage for an incinerator to actually work and make money and return enough revenue to the electric grid to actually have a real rebate. Today, we still have a rebate of a couple $100,000 because our methane gas that comes off the landfill, we sell back to Gainesville Electric because they like to pay a lot of money for renewable energy. And we charge them and they pay us a couple $100,000 a year just for our methane gas that used to get burned off because we're running engines off of it. And so the same kind of thing happens with an incinerator at a higher level, except for the fact that unlike European solid waste, our solid waste in America is very wet and very contaminated in comparison. And so it takes more energy to burn than typically you produce. And that's why it takes over 1 million households. That's why places like Tampa and those communities, when they combine, have success with incinerators, and places like Marion County have a hard time. But if you were able to regionalize Marion County solid waste with many other counties and municipalities, we could probably get to that point at some time. That's why we were investigating a solid waste authority. It did not work, but we tried to be proactive in a long-term solution. Did that make sense?
Yes,
Is
sir.
that, hopefully that was what you're looking for.
Well, we both studied this quite
Yeah. We like trash talk, right?
Well, we've both been involved in the industry.
Yeah.
One more, Carl, on that subject. Call it a Marion County Solid Waste Workshop, meaning you stated that those folks, which meant ACMS, with the landfill, are the ones that were voted to give $20 million to, need a little help. It would not be good for them to take our trash at this time.
Okay.
I'll describe what that means, or you can either way. You have to have X amount of flow coming in, like Carl said.
Right.
And if you've only got a little flow coming in, you still have to have the equipment, the manpower, and all that on hand to handle it.
Yep.
So I understand that. But my question to you is, why would you represent them and not the Marion County taxpayers that sign your check?
Sure, it was simple. It's a partner. Listen, everything about this business and my personal business is about partnership and relationships, right? We always work together, and when you work together, you get results, right? We work together with the CEP, the City of Ocala, we get results like FedEx, Chewy, AutoZone, right? So each one of us have done things. We laid pipe for the City of Ocala when we were building 35th Street. Did we have to do it? No. Did it save taxpayers of the city money? And did it cost the county money? No, it didn't cost the county any money, but did it save taxpayers for the city? Yeah. It's partnership, right? It works. Same thing here. When they first got started, what Glenn was talking about, we were thinking about taking the south part of the county that was, that's only probably 20 miles to the landfill in the southern part of our county. We were thinking about taking a little bit of flow so that we could kind of silence some of the naysayers that said we don't have any garbage going there. And the reality is, when we talked to our partner down there, they said, listen, unfortunately, they have a deal with Bushnell, and that royalty deal with Bushnell wasn't all the way worked out for Marion County disposal yet. And so they asked us, hey, can you hold off for a little bit? We could take it there today if we wanted to. It just doesn't really make sense until we close the baseline landfill. Once we close the baseline landfill, it makes the most sense to have the transfer station fully operational and then the material going. We should start within the next probably year or less. The transfer station will start to pick up a little bit and really start to go, because also when you're closing a landfill, you have to be very selective about the garbage that goes in to the landfill, because the cap has to be perfect. And the cap at the end, we basically have a 30-plus year liability on the landfill from the Department of Environmental Protection. So that last little bit of garbage, the last cap of clay and dirt that goes over the top of it has to be perfect, right? Kind of like finishing a wedding cake. It's got to be perfect, because you don't want a lot of rain, a lot of leachate, and a lot of stuff going into that landfill as it closes. You want the biology of that landfill to work for a couple decades. And so you have to keep the right chemistry in there for that thing to continue to break down and work and produce methane that continues to drive our energy product and engines. So I said all that to say we were just working in a partnership. Their first batch of material, they wanted something very specific in the bottom of their landfill, and they were working out a deal with Bushnell to finish up. And I thought it was reasonable for them to come to us and say, hey, can you guys not bring us any material until we get these things worked out? And it didn't impact in fact, it's probably better that we didn't start hauling down there, because every ton of airspace we have open 2 years down the road, that means inflation is working for us instead of against us. Every square foot of that landfill we get to keep.
Thank you, Carl.
Yep.
One last solid waste question.
Boy, man.
At another solid waste workshop, Chairman Bryant stated that a contract was in the works to purchase our $20 million investment. This wasn't too long ago. And
Man, I don't recall that statement. So what did she say?
I was at a solid waste workshop where Chairman Bryant stated that a contract was in the works to purchase ACMS. You mentioned the name of the company that
Waste Connections.
Waste Connections.
Okay.
Yes, sir. But we didn't know the name at the time,
Right.
for sure who the buyer was going to be.
Yeah, okay.
And then there was no need for us to proceed with an authority. Why was there only interest, Carl, would you say, to help the prior owner, which was ACMS, and not the new authority, the new owners?
Well, Glenn, I think that's just I just think that question is not exactly right, because I'm sure the new owner, that new owner worked out either way, right? That owner previously sold their company to a publicly traded company, or they would have sold it to a solid waste authority. Either way, they sold the company, right? I mean, I don't know that for them it worked out any differently than maybe what they wanted. I think it worked out, unfortunately, worse for us, because now instead of having 100 years worth of capacity and knowing where our garbage is going to go with the solid waste authority, now we have 20 or 30 years that we purchased already. So, I mean, I think the discussion about the solid waste authority was unfortunate for us, that we weren't able to put the right people around, that we could bond enough money to buy the landfill. If we were, I think it would have been better for the taxpayers. So.
Last question, Carl.
Yeah.
In government, all people should be treated equally. I think you and I would agree on that.
Sure.
The other day, you voted to give the Marion County firefighters a major pay increase. Are you offering a major increase for all the county employees?
We're working through it. That's one of my pet peeves, is the fact that sometimes, folks you'll hear folks bicker about it a little bit, where the guy laying asphalt on the ground or the guy cutting trees will say, well, what about me, Commissioner? You give your money to the firefighters and the police officers, but, we're out here cutting, swinging chainsaws and doing hard work and serving the people of Marion County, and, what about us? So this last year, not only did we give raises to the firefighters, but we also gave raises to all of those that were CDL drivers, all of those guys on those crews, and brought them up to what was a competitive wage inside of the county engineer's budget. We also did that for our utility guys. We were losing utility guys all over the place because we weren't paying a competitive pay. So we fixed that. Those are all funds that are not in the general fund related to property tax, right? Those are funds that are paid for either by gas tax or by utility fees that are collected from utility users. So it's a little bit easier to move that and change those pay rates than it is in the general fund that is very heavily paid for by taxpayers, property taxpayers. So this year we are moving. We still give a 3% performance-based salary. So we budget 3%, but people are eligible everywhere from getting $0 to getting up to 4% based on how they perform in their evaluation. I don't believe anybody should just get a across-the-board COLA. I believe that they should have to earn that money, and that their evaluation from their supervisor and their supervisor should prove that they deserve to get a pay raise, not just because, but because they actually did the work or did somebody else's work. Because we've got some incredible people that work for Marion County that we would have to hire 2 people to replace 1, right? And that happens. People are just behind the scenes, working hard, grinding it out, and we should reward them. And we should reward them disproportionately to those that aren't doing a great job. And then those that are not getting the performance evaluations that we expect, this helps us to put them on performance review. And then if they can't get their stuff together in 90 days, it helps us to exit them to a better opportunity. So The reality is that we're doing that, but we have to do that slowly, because how many of you want us to raise taxes to give raises to employees? Yeah, that's what I thought. So we have to do that within our budget and continue to every year step it up, make sure that we have competitive wages and that we do that fiscally responsible, and we continue to cut the fat where we can. That's exactly what we did for the fire department. They're not buying some resources that they need because they want to pay their people. I get that. That makes perfect sense. We don't have to have brand new trucks. We can have 2-year-old trucks and have the right paramedics on the back of them. As we get better maintenance, as we elongate the time on those trucks, all of those things come into play and helps us to be a more effective and efficient service organization for the people of Marion County. Because that's exactly what we do. We don't do anything but serve every single day. We serve in the back of ambulances. We serve in the back of patrol cars. We serve in the back of, all kinds of trucks that go out there and take care of trees and potholes. I mean, that's what Marion County, that's what you want from your government, right? Is a group of people that care about you and that go out and serve to make sure that the dollars you pay in are used effectively and efficiently for the services we provide back to you, the citizens of Marion County. And that's exactly what I want to do.
Carl, the last part of that question.
Yeah.
Do you have it, and if you don't have the number off your top of your head, that's fine. Any idea what the pay increase for the firefighters will amount to?
It's $3.43 an hour. I don't know what the total was. It's a little over 10 grand. So it puts us from the bottom. We were in the bottom 5 of 67 counties. It moves us to the top 10 of counties in Florida.
So it's roughly
Now,
10 grand a year, you say?
It's a little. I think it's a little more than 10 grand a year, because they have a 53-hour base plus a certain amount of overtime just because of the 24-hour shifts they work, and then they also get a stipend to ride on the back of an ambulance. So with all of that stacked together, it's a $50,000 starting pay for a firefighter paramedic. Now remember, these are not rookies. These are guys that have been with us 3 to 5 years. They got their EMT license. So that's basically our 5 to 10 year employee that we continue to lose. That's where we want to make sure that that paramedic has experience when they arrive to your family or mine. And we didn't change the EMT. So an EMT typically comes out of high school or something like that. They become an EMT, and then they start riding on the front of an ambulance. So it takes them 3 to 5 years to get to be a medic. And that's where we want to reward our people, because at that point is when they become the most marketable. And Marion County has some of the best training by far in the country for our firefighters and paramedics. And so remember, they can't be just a paramedic, they can't be just a firefighter, they have to be a dual certified firefighter paramedic in order to get that pay and retain that pay. And then after that, we have stages that they can work up. If they can continue to increase in their capacity to serve people, and they continue to increase in their capacity to learn, right? They can get to move up every few years once they meet the right criteria, then become a driver engineer, become a lieutenant, become a captain, become a division chief. So,
Carl?
is that it?
No, so I want you now, if you don't mind,
Okay.
Carl Zalak, incumbent, District 4.
District
Give us
4.
the reason why we should vote for Carl Zalak.
It's really simple. I'll make this really short since you heard a lot from me today. I want 2 things when I wake up in the morning. I want to live in a free country. I didn't tell you yet that I got invited by President Trump with a group of commissioners from around the state of Florida to actually come. One of the most remarkable things that I think any president's ever done is he wanted to hear from local governments. So he selected a bunch of people throughout the state of Florida, and I got invited to go meet with him and his team and his staff, because they wanted to hear right from us, not from some association or some state committee or some other thing. He wanted to hear from elected officials. And we went up there and represented Marion County, and we told them about the Waters of the U.S. bill, a bill that would continue to devastate counties around the country, because they wanted to control anything that was a navigable water or the offset of it, right? And it got down to where some of these rules could have come into play by the department, the Environmental Protection Agency, all the way down to our stormwater and our drains and our culverts. They could have had rules in place for by the EPA, which is just an incredible overreach of the federal government. President Trump stopped that. He stopped that with the advice of counties from all across this country working with him. And he put a stay on that through 2020 until we can get the right people on the Supreme Court to make sure the ruling comes out in favor of freedom and not cronyism at the EPA. So he's done a tremendous job with that, and I really appreciate the offer and the way he's running this administration. It's unlike any other. But two reasons I'm running is I want my kids to have an incredible opportunity. Because less than 8 years ago, I really didn't believe that my kids could have the same opportunities as anyone else to start a business and grow a business and achieve their dreams in Marion County. I thought they might have to go somewhere else, right? Just like everybody else's kids have to go somewhere else to do that. But I know now that's not true. Alex Malloy is a great example. He started in the incubator at 18, homeschooled kid, has an incredible digital marketing company, and he's right above where the old Starbucks used to be downtown. Got a half a dozen people working for him, and he's achieving his dreams right here in Marion County because we put in the right things like the incubator and opportunities for these young people to get mentored and learn and achieve greatness. And the second thing is I want my mom and dad to have the best retirement in the country, and they can do that right here. It's the best place to retire in the world, right here in Marion County. And so those two things is what I live for and what I'm driving for, is to make sure that every family has those opportunities. And I hope that you'll give me the opportunity to represent you again on the County Commission. Thank you so much. Please follow us on Facebook and votezalak.com. Thank you.
Carl, if you want, if you got time, you can stay in case anybody has any questions
I'll be right here.
one-on-one, please. I don't think Jane Morley is going to make it. If she can, perhaps we'll have it at our next meeting. The next meeting, I'll give you an idea. Pardon?
That's all.
Yeah, you cut it, thanks.